Nigerian government sets up task force to curb dollarization of economy as Efcc summons school proprietors charging fees in dollars. There have been protests in some parts of the country recently over the high cost of living, as Nigerians accuse the political leaders of living large and showing no concerns. Nigerian Anti-Corruption Agency, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission (EFCC), has set up a special task force in all its zonal commands to tackle the menace of dollarization of the economy. It was reported that the free fall of naira, the Nigeria's currency, at the foreign exchange markets, coupled with cost of petrol, had triggered galloping inflation, which has raised cost of living to unbearable level. There have been protests in some parts of the country recently over the high cost of living, as Nigerians accuse the political leaders of living large and showing no concerns about it. However, the anti-graft agency in statement said that it had also invited proprietors of private universities and other institutions of higher learning in Nigeria charging fees in dollars. In the statement signed by the EFCC's head media and publicity, Dele Oyewale, he explained that the task force would ensure the enforcement of extant laws against currency mutilation and dollarization of the economy. Quoting the chairman of the commission, Ola Olukayode, who inaugurated the task force in Abuja, the spokesperson said the task force was aimed at protecting the economy from abuses, leakages, and distortions. According to the statement, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission had already arrested some persons, although no figure was mentioned, whom it said were engaging in issuing invoices in dollars and in mutilation of the naira in Lagos and Port Harcourt, respectively. Already, proprietors of private universities and other institutions of higher learning charging fees in dollars have been invited by the Commission. The Commission is committed to the enforcement of all laws in place for the reflection and stimulation of the economy it partly rates. Recall that Falana in the suit marked FHCL CS 47623 filed at the Federal High Court in Lagos is asking the High Court to determine, amongst others, whether by virtue of Section 16 of the Central Bank Act, the exchange rate of the naira should be determined from time to time by a suitable mechanism devised by the bank for that purpose. He said that the failure of the defendant to perform its statutory duties has resulted in the constant devaluation, depreciation, and unending purge of the naira, that the resultant effect of the abdication of the defendant's statutory duties has also affected the country's economy and many businesses adversely. In the written address in support of the suit filed on his behalf by Mrs. Fumi Falana, the plaintiff submitted that by allowing the unabated use of dollars in Nigeria to the detriment of the naira, the defendant has failed in its statutory duties to ensure that naira remains the only recognized means of legal tender in Nigeria. He also noted that the Minister of Finance, Wale Edun, on August 17, 2021, publicly admitted that the multiple exchange rate system had compounded problems in Nigeria capital markets, and further stated that the defendant's latest policy was directed towards a unified exchange rate. Falana said the defendants, having realized that its policies on dual exchange rate system have caused more harm than good, declared the parallel market illegal and a bad determinant for the naira. The plaintiffs, among other reliefs sought, filed a declaration that by virtue of Section 16 of the Central Bank Act, the legal tender in Nigeria is naira and kobo. A declaration that by the combined effect of Sections 15 and 20 sub 1 of the Central Bank Act, the currency notes issued by the defendant shall be the legal tender in Nigeria. A declaration that by virtue of Section 16 of the Central Bank Act, the exchange rate of the naira shall be determined from time to time by a suitable mechanism devised by the defendant for that purpose. Also a declaration that by virtue of Section 16 of the Central Bank Act, the defendant is not competent to allow multiple exchange rates of the naira vis-a-vis the dollars and other foreign currencies. Lastly, a declaration that by virtue of Section 20 sub 5 of the Central Bank Act, the defendant is under a legal obligation to prosecute any person who refuses to accept the naira as a means of payment in Nigeria. He pleaded with the court to allow the suit to be served out of Lagos State and in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. Falana also sued Central Bank over alleged dollarization of the Nigerian economy and lamented the devaluation and depreciation of naira. We know the senior advocate of Nigeria in the person of Femi Falana, who sued the Central Bank of Nigeria over the dollarization of the Nigerian economy, the human rights obligation related in dollarization of their country's economy, which has in turn economy negatively contrary to the objectives of the defendant as enshrined in Section 2 of the Central Bank of Nigeria's Act. It was also by one of our newsmen that in a 10-paragraph affidavit in support of the originating summons deposed to by one Mr. Ayodele Aribasala, Falana argued that the Central Bank of Nigeria had allowed many landlords in Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt, and other cities in Nigeria, for which the Apex Bank was established to collect rents in dollars. The defendant also refused, in his words, the defendant has refused to stop the collection of school fees and rents in dollars in Nigeria, he stated. The senior lawyer argued that the dollarization of the Nigerian economy and the failure to address the multiple exchange rates further pushed the naira to its current fluctuating state. Falana recalled that as of 2015, $1 was exchanged for 178 naira, but in 2022 it was exchanged for 750 naira.